Now, I want to talk about something else here as well. I'm going to make a little bit of room on the board. And that, going back to protein, as we said that when you're chronically inflamed, actually let me keep this here, let me just move it over this way. When you're chronically inflamed, okay, when you're chronically inflamed, one of the things that happens is your body sequesters, or basically steals, protein from your muscle to fight inflammation and to fight the immune battles. When you're chronically inflamed, chronic inflammation is a major stress on your immune system. Remember, this is immune stress. And this is a problem because when you start breaking down your muscle, okay, to fight the inflammation, you compromise your immune system's ability to get access to that protein, and you increase the risk for the development of infectious problems. So, you know, whether it's a cold or whether it's a flu, but you also increase the risk, and not just for infectious, but, you know, for chronic types of infections like yeast overgrowth or candida overgrowth. So you kind of make room for that type of problem. And then yeast, if you're gluten sensitive, yeast overgrowth mimics gluten sensitivity. And we don't have time to get into the depth of that tonight, but this combination can make you even sicker, but it can also make you infectiously sick, because as your body is stressed out over the chronic inflammation, it's going to break down your muscle. That forwards this cycle all over again. Now, there are different requirements. So back to protein. So if we're trying to say, okay, if protein is critical for this, right, and obviously diet change, meaning we've got to change our diet to be less high carb. So we have to have balance of macros, of macronutrients. This is very important. A lot of people promote, I'll just say, chronic imbalance on both sides of the equation. You see people promoting high carb diets, you see people promoting high fat diets, and you see people promoting high meat diets. And I think there's reasons why different people promote those, because some people are helped by each of those different types of diets. But remember, generally speaking, when you create an imbalanced diet to correct an imbalanced diet, you end up, if you stay in that imbalanced diet long enough, you create new imbalance and create new symptoms down the road. So remember, it's important to get back to balance. So protein, 33%, carbs, 33%, and fat, 33%. Now, that's 99%, so add the 0.3 infinity after that if you'd like to correct the math here. But I'm not telling you to get out a calculator and weigh and count every bit that you eat and get it exactly right, but you're shooting for equality. And so some days you might have 40% here, you might have 30% here, you might have 30 here. Other days you might have 40 here, 30 here, 30 here, etc. There can be shift and variance within that, as long but what you're trying to strive for is a version of equality amongst those macronutrients. Your body needs all three. And again, where people struggle today is they have way too many. They're more like 60-70% here, right? And then what does that leave? That leaves minimal quantities of nourishing protein and minimal quantities of nourishing fat. Most of the people in these high carb diets, the type of fat they're getting is trans fat. The type of protein they're getting is from the grain directly itself, which is very low quality protein. It's not good quality, high biological value protein. And so they become protein malnourished. Now, if we want to talk about protein malnourishment, you know, some of the first things that we see happen in people with protein malnourishment. So not enough protein. One of the biggest symptoms, we just put symptoms. Symptoms of not enough protein. Number one, hair loss. Ladies, if you're losing your hair and you don't know why, check your protein. Number two, we'll see skin bruising happen very easily. So you might brush the wall and you're like, why am I so bruised? Bruising can happen really common or really aggressively with inadequate protein intake. We'll see anxiety develop, and that's because much of the protein is necessary for the production of the hormones that regulate anxiety. We'll also see depression develop in protein malnourished. We'll see like intolerance to exercise. So if you go to the gym, you try to work out, and you're paying a price for days after or weeks after, not just typical muscle soreness, but you're out for the count, that intolerance to exercise may be because you're not getting adequate protein. What else do we see? We see frequent infections. So if you pick up every cold, every flu, every little thing that gets passed around, you got to think the potential possibility that you might be low in protein. These are some of the big ones. There certainly are a lot more. I mean, we can link bone loss. We can link it to blood sugar dysregulation or diabetes or metabolic syndrome. Okay, so there are a lot of symptoms associated, but these are some of the most early ones, and that's why I want you to know what to look for early on. Okay, look for these types of things. The top 6 here, look for those things, because those are really early, typically really early symptoms of protein malnourishment. Actually, let's just add one more. Let's add 6.5, or we'll call it number 9, but let's add focus, attention problems. So inability to focus. Again, much of your neurotransmission is protein oriented. Okay, so these are your top symptoms. Now, if you're now some people will say, well, protein deficiency doesn't exist in the U.S. There's a condition called kwashiorkor, which is major protein malnutrition that does occur in third world countries where the diets are largely grain-based diets. And so these individuals will develop a host of different problems much more aggressively. But before they develop those aggressive problems, they develop these ones. It's thought that 1 billion people on the planet today are protein malnourished. Many of them are here in the U.S. and other industrialized countries. So don't let your doctor try to dismiss protein from the equation. Hey, don't forget to check out the rest of the series right here. Make sure you hit subscribe below. And as always, thanks for tuning in.